It's Artificer Zymox and the relics for Zymox as well. So we finally know what relics are. We kind of already knew because of some leaks. I already reviewed these once and had to pull it out of the review, but accidentally left some teasers in there. But we're officially gonna review these today. So we'll jump back to Zymox. I'm gonna start with the relics first because that sets up the context here. This is the Relic of Extinction, a 2-mana card for Demon Hunter. It deals 1 damage to a random enemy minion twice, and then will improve your future relics. So every time you play a relic, this little 3-card cycle, it's going to make the next one stronger. So in this case, it will deal 2 damage to a random enemy minion twice, then 3 damage, 4 damage, etc. You'll also see these upgrade as well. This will reduce costs by 1, and then by 2, and then by 3, and then this will summon 1/1s, and then 2/2s, and 3/3s, and so on and so forth. And remember, we saw the location in the past as well for Demon Hunter, which allows you to click the button, and it will double your next relic, which means you not only get twice the effect, but you get twice the improvement as well, allowing you to scale these up a lot faster. So there are 6 relic across 3 cards, 2 of each is 6, and then you have 2 locations each with 2 durability. That's an additional 4 improvements, and then you have Zymox as well, who can theoretically play all 3 relics, which also improve according to what we heard. And then there's also actually things like Nogglings, which will apparently both play and upgrade future relics as well. So there are quite a few ways actually to improve your relics throughout the course of the game. Not that you'd necessarily want to run all of those, but still a possibility. Pheno revealed these just for, where we're getting this information. All relics improve when you play once. Infuse Zymox, cast relics in random order, and each one improves the next ones, even within Zymox. So that's 3 improvements there. Location doesn't work with Zymox, but works with the rest. And Noggling should work in both playing the latest version of relics and improving future ones. So lots of ways to essentially pump these up. Now, as far as their effects are concerned, they each kind of do different things. This one is a way to react to the board, and just for clarification, this does not hit the same enemy minion twice necessarily. It can, but it can also hit across multiple minions. And the way this is worded and with the twice aspect there, it basically allows us to scale up twice as quickly, because if it just said deal 1 damage to random enemy minion, it would go to 2, it would go to 3, it would scale up in a linear fashion. But when it goes to 2 twice and then 3 twice, it's scaling up, it's skipping basically. It's dealing 2 damage, then 4 damage, then 6, then 8, etc. And that gets it up there much more quickly to react to many different shapes and sizes of boards, allowing you often to clear like 2 medium or even large size things by the time you've improved these multiple times. So this one to me feels kind of like the cheap feeder relic. Like, it's not going to be great at the beginning, but you might still play it just to start improving and get that chain rolling. Maybe just hope to soften up a board for like a hero power for Demon Hunter. Maybe snipe something off at 2 health on this first one. And it's going to be kind of weak at first, I think. And then as we move into the next relic, I guess we'll go to the 3-mana one next, since it's kind of in mana order here. This is Relic of Phantasms. This one's going to summon you a little bit of a board. And again, the base version of this, not very exciting. Just 2 1/1s for 3 mana. Does not feel good. Now, 1/1s are a little better in an infused world if you've got infused cards. Zymox itself being an infused card, that might help feed into your Zymox, for instance. But again, this one starts out slow. Even as they move to 2/2s, not an especially exciting play for 3 mana. 3/3s is where it starts to feel solid, and then from there it gets nuts. And we saw, like in the Pheno reveal video, even getting up to 8/8s at one point. Now, 3 mana for some 8/8s is pretty good. That's a nice little turn. So, you could again use this as a little bit of a feeder to start improving the relics. You got a turn 2, you got a turn 3. You're kind of taking some downturns. You're not super excited about those, but you're making powerful plays in the future, which is better. And then this is the one I think you should be excited about if you're excited about relics. It's Relic of Dimensions. This is kind of like a refreshing spring water and a Skull of Gul'dan had a baby, both of which, have been very powerful card draw tools for their respective classes. Skull of Gul'dan and Demon Hunter specifically. Relic of Dimensions is 5 mana. It draws 2 cards and reduces their cost by 1. And again, that cost reduction is going to increase, not the number of cards. So eventually this might draw 2 cards and reduce their cost by 6. It could theoretically reduce their cost by 10, which means, of course, you're getting your mana back when you play the Relic of Dimensions in many cases, because you're getting more than 5 mana worth of discounts. And that's much like Skull of Gul'dan. Yeah, you'd spend 6 mana, but you'd net 9 mana in discounts in many cases. Of course, sometimes less if you had cheap cards, and that may be the case with Relic of Dimensions as well, but you can build your deck in ways to perhaps reward this for its full mana cost or more after it has been pumped up a little. Even at a base level, it's really kind of like 3 mana, draw 2 cards, because you're getting 2 mana and discounts back right away. That's some crazy discounts. After just a couple improvements, this is in that Skull of Gul'dan space, in that Refreshing Springwater space really quickly, and then I think this becomes a very powerful card. And then to finish off this puzzle, we've got Artificer Zymox here, an 8 mana 8/8 with Battlecry, discover and cast a relic. So at a base level, probably not usually that exciting. It might actually be worth it if you have like a really juiced up Relic of Phantasm and you just make 3 8/8s. Like, that's not a bad play necessarily. There will be scenarios where that's worth it, but in many cases you'll want to infuse this, infuse 5, you cast all 3 instead. So what that means is Zymox will basically be something that reacts to your opponent's board, maybe clears off a couple things. He will draw you multiple cards and discount them pretty substantially, so you might be able to follow up with additional plays in the same turn for 0 mana, and then also summon you a pretty solid board. So you're going to get like 3 minions, 2 cards that are super discounted, and some board clear. So it's just like a nice little swing card, right? It's, I don't know, almost think of it like a mini Shutterwalk or something, right? Where you're just getting a kind of random assortment of stuff. Probably not ever as good as Shutterwalks because we built that so grossly, but you get the idea. Just you play this high cost card and a lot of things are going to happen, and they're generally going to be good things for you. Now, all of that sounds great, right? Like, you know, once you get it rolling, clearly the payoffs here are insane. Like, you're going to have some powerful turns. But I do look at this and I have to ask, like, man, you know, just comparing this to Jace, it's a natural, obvious comparison because they're both 8 mana, do a lot of thing cards. I just don't know that I feel like Zymox is ever going to be as powerful as what Jace is doing currently, because Jace does a lot of the same stuff. You have ways to clear off minions. You have ways to gain life with Jace. You have ways to deal 1 billion damage with Jace, right? Like, Jace is often just a lethal push because you've gotten so many attack buffs going throughout the game. So in a lot of ways, it feels like to me for 8 mana, Jace is a much better sort of finisher card, whereas this is more of a continuation card. Rarely is this actually going to help you end a game. Sometimes those bodies on board will, but this is just sort of keeping things rolling. And that makes me nervous that this doesn't have the kind of finality that we typically see in Shutterwalks and Jaces and these late game follow-up sorts of cards. Beyond that, this demands a lot of conditionality. You have to, of course, run enough relics to make it all worth it, right? You have to keep this chain rolling. That means you're making some sacrifices in the early game that I feel like you don't really make when you're setting up something like a Jace, for instance. Often you're pretty excited to play those cards anyway. You're not taking all these downturns on 2 and 3, just pumping up your relics, spending mana on locations, and so on. And then, of course, infuse as well to make this card feel really good. You have to infuse a little bit. If you top deck this late in the game, it might be a while before it's good, or you might have to pump it out at a base level, which isn't going to feel as nice either. So all in all, like, yeah, it's okay. You know, in a vacuum, it does a lot of things we like, but is it going to be as decisive? Is it going to be as impactful as cards that already exist for Demon Hunter? Now, of course, Jace will rotate out at some point and Zymox will be left, and maybe this package kind of slots in as a replacement for, you know, the late game of Demon Hunter decks, and maybe they don't have as an aggressive a line. Maybe they play a little bit longer. Maybe they have combo decks that supports better. There are obviously angles for a card like this one to see play, but I have to say, it does feel a little bit less compelling than packages we've already seen in Demon Hunter. And sometimes what that means is there will be new cards that come along before that happens, before that opportunity arises. And Zymox will still kind of feel like the underwhelming version of things that Demon Hunter can do. Now, that said, you know, this is not a full deck package. This is not, you know, you don't have to commit your entire deck. You're basically looking at 6 relics, 2 locations, that's 8 cards. Zymox is 9. That leaves 21 cards in a deck. So you could use this as sort of a complementary package. You're not necessarily all in ever with relics because there's just not enough to do that. So maybe there are decks that just kind of slot this in and it feels like a nice little side engine of the deck that's still doing other things. And although the Fel package does that better right now, there's still opportunities for it. It's just not the card I'm most excited about so far. I mean, I think it's a cool effect, by the way. I love the mechanics. Like, from a fun and flavor standpoint, it's awesome. I'm going to try to make some gigantic spirits, right? Like, we're going to cheese this as much as possible. But from a competitive standpoint, it's just, I feel like there are still always going to be slightly better things to do with your card slots. And then next up, we also have a fresh reveal, the Ghastly Gravedigger, which pretty big tease here because it says if you control a secret and it's for rogue. And we haven't had rogue secrets since Dark Moon Fair, so we've gone just a little while here without secrets, but they're already back. There are currently none in standard format, but looks like we're going to be getting a new secret cycle. Now that said, really hard to review a card like this when it's so dependent on secrets and we don't know what the secrets are going to be just yet. So I'm going to hold off on like officially scoring this, but we can still talk about it a little. 3 mana 4/3. If you control a secret, choose a card in your opponent's hand to shuffle into their deck. So actually some really nice resource removal here. We saw an effect like this previously with Star Student Stellina for Demon Hunter, if you remember, which did not work very well. It was a little too conditional, and at 4 mana didn't feel good. At 3 mana, I think this feels like a more natural fit, particularly on a turn 2 secret follow-up. If you have a secret you can be pretty sure is going to stick around, which in many cases there are certain secrets that do that, then this means you're very likely to remove a card from your opponent's hand and it shuffles into their deck, which means it's not putting on the bottom for things like dredge, and it actually messes up dredges as well because it reshuffles anything they just freshly dredge. So a good counter here to some dredge decks. And of course, if you can find a big combo piece or just an on-curve play and then steal it from your opponent, that can be a nice advantageous option for you. And with like battle cry shenanigans, doubling, and so on, you might actually be able to put a lot of cards in their hand into their deck, really slowing down their game plan, demanding they draw more cards if they want to keep up. And all of that on a body here that's not terrible for 3 mana. Like, this is still a nicely aggressively statted minion that can pump in some pressure as well. So we'll wait and see the secrets for sure, but there's a lot to like about this minion. I think it's a card advantage offer, a disruptor, and decent tempo card on top of all of that. So intrigued to see more for the Ghastly Gravedigger. All right, next up here we have a Paladin card. It's more dude Paladin support. It's Promotion, a 1 mana spell that will give a Silverhand Recruit +3/+3. So, I mean, obviously that is a very efficient buff. 3/3 for 1 mana is insane. You know, Blessing of Kings used to be a solid card. 4/4 for 4 mana. So you're looking at almost the same buff, way cheaper, which can slot into turns very nicely and easily, help you fill mana and contribute to some early board pressure or even just setting up some value trades with your Silverhand Recruits. And we've already seen a lot of Silverhand Recruit synergy cards printed, so there's gonna be lots of ways to make and or buff Silverhand Recruits. Often, for instance, Silverhand Recruits might have Divine Shields when you buff them with Promotion, probably improving the efficacy of these stats even more. On top of that, it's also kind of feeding into a quest line Paladin, which again, as a reminder, suggests you play 1 mana cards in your deck to advance your quest line, and then eventually you get Cariel, who will buff your Silverhand Recruits. So this is a very natural synergy fit for quest line Paladin. The challenges for a card like this one are that it's very conditional. Sometimes these buffs, it's nice to be able to slot them into any given turn, and if you don't have a Silverhand Recruit or a way to make a Silverhand Recruit, Promotion can indeed get pretty stranded in hand. Now, there's always your hero power, of course, to get a Silverhand Recruit on any given turn that you want, but that's probably not going to be an efficient use case of your mana early in the game when Promotion is the most compelling. That said, with cards like Sinful Sous Chef we saw before that adds 2 Silverhand Recruits to your hand, I think you're still going to have a lot of mana flexibility and ways to pump out dudes that are each kind of 1 mana and just slot into turns really easily. So I think even if you have to wait a turn here and there for Promotion, there will still be plenty of instances to make this feel like it fits into your curve and doesn't disrupt or get left in hand stranded when you really want to spend that 1 mana too often. You know, there's those turns where it's like, okay, it's turn 4, I really want to play the Steward for 3 mana, and my Promotion is stuck, but hopefully you have enough other 1-drops to fix that problem, right? So I do think running all of these different 1-drops, there's that risk that the deck just gasses out super early. That's what it kind of feels like to play Questline Paladin right now. And it might feel like Promotion is just another part of that. Like, oh man, another 1 mana card to just dump really quickly. But I think that this offers ways to create enough pressure that you'll end games quickly. If you're just being aggressive enough and overwhelming people with big Silverhand Recruits, you're probably just going to kill them before you run out of cards. So cards like this actually kind of help solve that problem, I think, because they increase your damage output and your follow-up by buffing your Silverhand Recruits into lethal positions. So yes, of course, you play this one really quickly, but if it ends the game fast, that's not a problem. All that said, the real concern as always is, will this deck actually work? Because I don't think Promotion is a card you can run outside of a deck that's dedicated to Silverhand Recruits. The hero power enough is not something that makes this card exciting. You just don't care enough about this in any other kind of Paladin deck that's not running Silverhand Recruits. So this is one of those that I think has, you know, a pretty high efficiency in its environment, but that context may not always deliver. Sometimes Silverhand Recruit decks just won't get there. It's happened before, it will happen again, and that means Promotion gets totally stranded. If Questline Paladin doesn't make sense, this card won't make much sense either. So in other words, I think its power is high, but its feasibility is certainly at risk. Artificer Zymox is a 3-star card. Relic of Extinction is a 2-star card. Relic of Dimensions is a 3-star card. Relic of Phantasms is a 2-star card. Promotion is a 3-star card. And there you go for that review, folks. It's a little weird to score the Relic cards. You kind of assume they should all have the same scores because they're all started the same package, and if one gets run, they're probably all going to get run. But I bumped up Zymox and Dimensions specifically because it does feel like they're the reasons you'd want to do this, whereas Relic of Extinction and Phantasms, I think, are a little bit more of the filler options. I still don't really think this gets beyond sort of a fringe package in a moderately mid-tier deck. I think it's usually going to be kind of the thing you add in because there's not a lot else to do. So it's not going to feel maybe that compelling or like the reason for the deck, but still has that little bit of chance to get played because both Zymox and Dimensions can make some pretty big turns. If they're not necessarily game ending, still powerful engines that might support a deck that's about something else. So kind of a complementary package status and score to match. That said, curious what you think. Do you think the Relic package is going to be awesome, make tons of sense? Want to hear those thoughts in the comments down below. But until then, thanks so much for watching, and until next time, game on.